live on YouTube. All right, here we go. We are live once again. Weather Center live at 8:30 in the morning on April 2nd, 2024. We're going to do a live update briefing on what exactly is taking shape out there because we've had some expansion of our severe weather threats and we've also had a continuation of our severe weather threats, which I'm very grateful for our folks in the Mid-Atlantic and the Southeast. So we're going to kind of try to deep dive into that as fast as we can this morning before we run out of time and I have to either go to work on some college assignments, but I wanted to make sure to take some time to talk to you guys about exactly what's going on. And we will be live again tonight. So if you missed the stream this morning, you can join us again tonight at 8 p.m. as things are blowing through, and I'll continue to update my Instagram, my TikTok accordingly. But welcome, good morning, everybody. This is Weather Center Live. Welcome to my TikTok viewers. Once again, we're doing the split screen here. We have YouTube right behind you guys. Computer screen, I got my live chat on YouTube. I got my live chat on TikTok. Whoa, almost called you Instagram. I'm going to try to flip the camera back and forth for you folks on TikTok so you can see what I'm talking about. But first and foremost, our big area of concern for everybody on YouTube, on TikTok, is going to be Ohio, Indiana, Kentucky, and I do believe West Virginia has a very good shot at seeing some strong storms. That is 100% what I'm on board with. One Nation Weather, good morning, Brooke Ward. That is a that's a huge shame to hear that her basement and backyard are flooding, especially the basement, especially if things do kick off later today as they're expecting. So for today, widespread severe coverage, and I don't think that we want to focus primarily on Ohio, Indiana, Kentucky, West Virginia, because there is going to be an extension of this bad boy all the way down towards the Gulf coastline. I do think that areas in Mississippi, Alabama, the Florida Panhandle today, Georgia, the Carolinas, Virginia, General Virginia, Bonafide Virginia, as I'd like to call it, are going to have to watch for strong storms today. We have multiple potential rounds that are likely to go into effect as well, which is crazy. Right now, we already have severe thunderstorm action occurring out there. If I were to switch us over to Radar Omega, we have an active tornado warning on the extreme upper northwest periphery of Kentucky, just to the southwest of Louisville, headed towards Radcliffe, Elizabethtown. There is an active tornado warning currently in effect, and this is going to be the song and dance most of the day today. Thankfully, it looks like our forecast verified very, very well last night. I figured and I broadcasted that around 2 to 3 a.m. our folks in the plains will be done and over with. So if I have interest tuning in from Kansas, Oklahoma, Missouri, the western half, the northern half of Arkansas, Texas, you guys are in the clear. You guys are in the clear. You're done with. Day one is behind us. We have managed to successfully make it through. Praise God. Now we have to focus more so on the Midwest as our low continues to deepen. She's currently situated over Missouri. And as that continues to deepen, that is what's going to help to level up our threat for today. We have the low-level winds turning around that cyclone, and it's going to help to give us our rotational capacity for these thunderstorms in the mid to upper levels of the environment. Kentucky, definitely want to be watching. Don't be worried, but definitely be watching. Louisville, Kentucky, you definitely want to be watching. You already have a tornadic storm off to your southwest. So, folks, please bear with me. Yes, I'm going to stay live for about an hour. We're going to do a live morning briefing, and then we're going to do an evening briefing tonight. We're going to also talk a little bit about tropics tonight because there's just so much to talk about. Is it moving from Missouri? Yes. Missouri is almost in the clear. You guys are almost primarily on the backside of the low system. The further back you can get behind it into the more stable cold sector, or I'll call it the cool sector for now, you guys are going to be on the more stable side. So if you are from about Jefferson City, Columbia, Missouri, and then further off to the northwest, this includes St. Joseph, Kansas City. Springfield is just about all said and done. You guys are not going to see very much in the way of significant activity today. We might see a stray storm try to sneak into the southeast periphery of Missouri, but all in all, it definitely seems like Missouri, Kansas, Iowa, most of Arkansas, as a matter of fact, is going to be done and over with this bad setup. Primarily from Tennessee, if you guys had to look at it from a geographic perspective on the map, if you draw a straight line straight down from the border of Illinois all the way down to the Gulf coastline, further east of that straight line is where you want to be paying close attention to, especially closer to that low pressure system. Let me go ahead and switch the camera around real quick. I have you guys on a smaller tripod. Let's see, I'll go ahead and flip the camera view. I don't know how to do that on TikTok, so we're going to do, there we go. All right, so This is where we stand currently. I apologize to my YouTube viewers. I'm going to hold this TikTok camera for a second. So as you guys can see on TikTok, and for those of you on YouTube, just kind of bear with me, watch or listen as I kind of describe geographically as if we were on a podcast or the radio. So Missouri is just about clear. This is your parent low. It's centered right over central Missouri. That parent low is what's going to help to destabilize everything off to the southeast of it. So southeast of where that low is, all encompassing this general area where you see the special weather statement, that severe thunderstorm that's headed towards Memphis, Tennessee, that area is primed to go. Southern Illinois, southern Indiana, Ohio, as this boundary tries to lift a little bit further to the north. I've noticed that as of this morning, our warm front has gone stationary again. It has lost a lot of its momentum. It is still stuck right up along the border of our Midwestern states. This blue and red line here is your stationary boundary. This is your delineation between your more stable side and your more unstable side. Interests to the south of that stationary boundary are where you want to watch closely for everything that's going to go down. You can already see we have really good morning convection firing to the south of it. And as our parent low over Missouri continues to drift up towards the north and east, that boundary ideally will try to go with it, but I do think this system is going to occlude. It'll wrap back into the cold sector of its outlining upper level jet more than it will actually allow the warm sector to lift north. So I do believe, once again, as I've echoed on posts up until this point, it's going to be south central Illinois, south central Indiana, and a large majority of central and south Ohio. Maybe interest in Pennsylvania, West Virginia, Virginia, and then moving off towards Maryland and Delaware. You want to watch closely for any kind of leftover stuff that may try to pop up out of nowhere. Let me switch the camera back over so we can start going through this briefing a little bit. I'm on borrowed time. That's the unfortunate reality of not being able to do weather 24/7 and live and die by it. I want to, but not yet. Can't do it yet. I need you guys' help to get to that capacity. All right, let's get into it so we can talk timing. Please bear your questions until towards the end. Let's get through this brief so we can start talking a little bit about it. First and foremost, for my YouTube viewers who can see the screen, again, I do apologize, TikTok will not let me stream simultaneously or share my screen until we make it to 10,000 followers. So it sounds crappy of me to say, but please share this live stream, share my content so we can get above that 10,000 threshold, just for the sake of getting these briefings out to more people altogether so you can see the material that I'm presenting. Because right now I just feel so goofy going back and forth. I have multiple cameras going in front of me. One Nation Weather, thank you very much for tuning in. And once again, how close are we? I was looking for you last night. I didn't see you pop in, but thanks for joining us now. Weather Florida Man, welcome again. Alfalfa Bill Enjoyer, thank you very much for joining us. All I'm saying is that it did somewhat verify for the guys who say it did. No, I agree. It definitely did. We had a nocturnal tornado threat. It just definitely didn't seem like it was as expansive or scattered as it was initially anticipated, which is good news, I should say, not is a good news. Very quickly, we're going to look at day 2. This was day 3 yesterday, and I'm glad for those of you who watched on TikTok and for those of you who tuned in on YouTube last night, we had mentioned that we should probably elevate our severe risk for the Mid-Atlantic, Virginia, Delaware, Maryland, North Carolina, all the way back through Florida, for at least a level 2 severe risk. I think level 1 was undershooting it a little bit too much, and they finally did. They did it this morning. Thankfully, SPC has gone to a level 2 risk for Central Florida, all the way up towards Jacksonville, the southern border of Georgia. We have a nice yellow shading across the peninsula, the northern central half of the Florida peninsula. Level 1 risk through southeast Georgia, South Carolina, up until you get to the Cape Hatteras area of North Carolina. We're back into that level 2 risk. They actually did encompass Maryland and Delaware in this level 2 severe risk as well, and I'm fully on board with that. I'm glad that they decided to elevate it just a little bit to get that word out there. Isaac Logan, missed my FSA test this morning. Oh gosh, I'm sorry to hear that. We should be having a new Storm Prediction Center update rolling out here momentarily, hopefully. So we'll stay on the stream to get that bad boy in for us. Actually, is this the new update? I think they just updated it. They did just update it. Okay. So we now have an enhanced risk all the way. Yeah, so, all right, guys. I'm going to switch the camera around again so you can see. So we just got our update from Storm Prediction Center, and we now have an even greater expansion of our severe weather risk. We have our enhanced all the way down into most of Alabama, now encompassing Alabama. Majority of the western half of Georgia getting close to the Florida Panhandle area. Mississippi, you are definitely still in the threshold for severe weather. We have a huge area of enhanced. Level 3 out of 5, level 4 out of 5, still encompassing our tri-state areas, what we'll call it, Indiana, Ohio, and Kentucky. Again, though, please take those lines with a grain of salt. Alyssa, yes, this is current. This is your latest update. This was published, if you look at the time, 7:32 Central Time. This updated about 8 minutes ago, and they've expanded their enhanced region. So, makes a lot of sense. In fact, bear with me on my TikTok. I'm going to go ahead and just simply turn you guys around so you can continue to watch what it is that I present, because we're going to go full briefing mode for the time being. YouTube guys, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. I'm going to spin my tripod my mount off of this tripod and put you back on the other one. I know this looks so dorky, so dumb. I'm telling you guys, I can't wait till I can stream to all of my folks simultaneously on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, etc. We're not there yet. We're still trying to hopefully grow. Let's go ahead and put this back on my regular tripod. You guys, actually, you know what? Let me just take the phone off for a second so you guys aren't spinning around. Maybe that'll help a little bit. I'll put you right up against my digital camera there for YouTube. Please, as I'm doing this, ask as many questions as you want. Mackenzie, to answer your question, truthfully, anywhere in Ohio, you need to pay close attention. I do think the further north you go in Ohio, the less of a likelihood you have of really bad severe weather. If you're in central, southwest, southeast Ohio, you really need to be prepared for this, and you need to watch very closely. Cling to your reliable weather sources. That's why I wanted to do a morning brief today to get you guys out ahead of this bad stuff before it's too late and before I run out of time. Let me go ahead and switch the camera around. Let me go ahead and flip it. Flip it, and let's go ahead and put you guys so you can actually watch the stream as well. Let's go ahead and tighten this up. Okay. Let's see, can you guys see clearly? Yes, you can. Perfect. Okay. Move this like so. There we go. Perfect. All right. So this is where we have our new, if you guys aren't familiar with what Storm Prediction Center has been putting out, this is the area that's brand spanking new. This has more or less stayed the same. We still have our level 4 moderate risk for Ohio, southeast Indiana, the northern half of Kentucky, and I do want to say that our level 4 risk is bleeding into West Virginia and Pennsylvania just a little bit. Please don't get too fixated on the fine lines here. These very easily blur and bleed together. This new enhanced area for our folks in the Gulf Coast states in the southeast definitely need to pay close attention. We have all the way from eastern half of Mississippi, particularly the northeast quadrant of Mississippi. The entirety of Alabama at this point is under the threshold for some severe weather, and Georgia. The Florida Panhandle could see a little bit of this bleed and mix down into the Florida Panhandle as well, closer to Tyndall, Apalachicola, interior Florida Panhandle, Pensacola, Eglin, Tyndall Air Force Base, and so on. Let's go into the charts so we can see what our tornado risk has done as well, so we can talk about that just a little bit. Let's go national, and we'll come down. That's not what I wanted. Come on, please cooperate. I want national. That's not going to do it. All right, anyways, this is fine. This works. So tornado outlook, hatched area for tornadoes has now officially gone through a majority of Alabama, a larger area of Georgia as well. So that means we definitely need to pay close attention to this. That's not good that they've expanded it as much as they have. This could be a very dangerous situation unfolding later today, because now we're getting into more heavily populated areas, especially areas like Tuscaloosa, Birmingham, Montgomery, Talladega. Even further to the north, we'll switch over to Tennessee so we can get a closer look at Tennessee, since for some reason my national thing just doesn't want to work. Yeah, very, very good chance at some tornadic activity. And please don't get too fixated on the hatched area by itself and think that that just means you have a very, very high chance of tornadoes. What this more or less means is within 25 miles of a point, as the legend stipulates off in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen, that is what they're trying to indicate here, is that there could be scattered tornado coverage. Not the probability of tornadoes happening, more or less scattered in close proximity or not in so close proximity to one another, for lack of a better term. So let's talk timing. Let's get into timing really quick. First and foremost, I wanted to take you over to windy.com to do some analysis. There's our parent low. Our low continues to spin. It's getting ready to move into Illinois right now. And as it continues to churn off towards the northeast, as it begins to occlude, that's what's going to help to ignite our tornado risk across southern Illinois, southern Indiana, and then especially into Ohio, as that projected path kind of follows this kind of direction more or less, like so. That's what we're looking for. That, if you will, I know this is used for the eclipse, but that is what you could consider your path of totality in terms of where our triple point and where most of that robust shear and buoyancy is likely to be positioned. Here is your cold front. Your cold front is back in through here. So everywhere within this cold sector, you're done. Pretty done. This looks like a prefrontal trough, secondary cold push just out ahead of it, or a prefrontal cold push through Arkansas, moving through Louisiana, the eastern extremity of Texas. And then here is your warm front right around in through here. So again, just to the south and in close proximity of where this warm front is where you really need to pay close attention. I'll change the coloring once again. Where your warm front and your cold boundary are, if you try to imagine, your low-level winds are going to be most favorable right in through here. And I'll change the color one last time so you guys can get a big picture of it. This is where we really want to pay close attention to that severe thunderstorm threat as we go through the day today. And as this continues to move off towards the southeast, that threat is going to propagate with it. So slowly but surely, after we get ignition, we're going to move into West Virginia, more of Tennessee, North Carolina, the Carolinas, more of the Gulf Coast in the southeastern United States. This is only a static image, so you can't really loop it too well. All right, here we go. We're going to get into timing now. How are we doing on TikTok, folks? I understand that I can't see you guys, and I do apologize. I'm going to try to focus on the timing, get this briefing done, and then we'll turn over to questions, okay? So folks on YouTube, folks on TikTok, if you can hear me clearly, hold your questions. I will open it up to questions here momentarily. I just want to get this brief out of the way. That's the big thing. I want to get this information across to you guys. So we're looking at the 6Z HRRR, and the reason we're looking at the 6Z is because we can go out further in range. Each cardinal hour, 0, 6, 12, 18 on the HRRR, it allows us to go out 48 hours, so we're going to use the most recent longer range HRRR. So this is what we have going on currently. This is 6 a.m., 7 a.m., 8 a.m., 9 a.m., 10 a.m. So we're getting close to this point in time. This is 9 o'clock right now, here very soon. It's 8:47 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I understand for our Central Standard Time folks, we have to convert an hour back. So just kind of do that math mentally in your head. This is where we stand. And yesterday, I noticed the timing on this stuff. It looks like we're going to replenish the atmosphere. Our dry air is going to build back in, allow the sunshine to start mixing in and clearing out a lot of this residual moisture that's left behind from this morning's activity. And then right around the noon hour, let's see if the model is, there's noon. Yeah, so right around noon is when we're going to initiate. So for everybody watching right now, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 11 a.m. Central Standard Time is when our models are hunting for these new thunderstorms to start to finally ignite. And the HRRR looks a little more intense than it did last night because we have thunderstorms firing now all the way down towards northern Louisiana getting into Mississippi. So I can see why they extended that enhanced risk. Makes a lot of sense. This is now 2 p.m. in the afternoon, max heating of the day for us here in the Eastern Standard Time Zone. And as this continues to unfold, you can see areas in central and southern Indiana really want to watch. Ohio is definitely going to have to watch, and then we're going to have lots of ignition through Kentucky, linear ignition, Kentucky, West Virginia, Tennessee, all the way through our Gulf Coast states. And this is now getting into the back end of the afternoon. This is 6 p.m. as we roll into the evening. This is where we could potentially stand. On TikTok, I've had someone asking about Michigan. This is primarily why we're not going to have a whole lot going on in Michigan, because if you notice, we are very, very close to our parent low circulation, and all this blue and pink here is going to be wintry effects. We're going to have snow, potential icing, maybe some sleet mixed in there, freezing rain trying to get its act going. So we're going to be too cold. We're, relatively cold. It's not going to be like 20 degrees, but you know what I mean. We're going to be too cold to see ignition like we are down here. Our main area of severe weather we want to monitor is going to be right in through here as I drew using our windy chart, and this is only going to continue to move off towards the east and the southeast. We'll switch on over to our RRFS model for just a little bit more confirmation. This is where we sit. This is 7 a.m., 8 a.m., 9 a.m., 10 a.m., 11 a.m., 12 a.m. So it looks like the RRFS wants to ignite storms just shortly after the noon lunch hour. It looks like we could have ignition around noon to 1 p.m. in our southern states. Not a whole lot of action going on in Indiana, Ohio just yet at this point. Tennessee, Kentucky, Mississippi, and Louisiana looks to go first. Then we're going to have southern Illinois, southern central Indiana, and then a large majority of Ohio getting through Kentucky and West Virginia is going to go off as well. Our RFS model does not look as impressive as the HRRR, and the Rufus model, or the RRFS as I like to call it, is a fairly reliable model. It did very well with our last significant event down here in the southeast. It called our mesoscale convective vortex fairly well with a lot of accuracy. The South Florida threat, the Florida Key tornado threat, it definitely did a wonderful job on that. So I put a good amount of my eggs in this basket here in terms of the RFS model. Timing is off just a little bit, and honestly, I would err on the side for my folks on TikTok and YouTube. In this situation, since we have such an expansive area of potential severe weather, I would lean on the side of caution and just go earlier in the day. 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. Eastern and Central Standard Time is when you really just want to pay attention. A lot of it is going to be dictated by when the sun starts coming up. You could see ignition earlier if the sun starts to come in on the backside of this stuff, and we get an ignition earlier in the day around 12 p.m. EST. And then this is just going to continue off, and you look down in the southeast, and you can see as we get into tomorrow morning, Wednesday morning, we have some potentially strong stuff moving through the Carolinas, Kentucky, Delaware, Maryland, getting through the Florida Peninsula, and even through interior Florida, we could see some isolated strong storms before that parent low really begins to mature, wrap up, and go fully barotropic. You could see it spinning out here almost like a cold hurricane looking thing right here. This is when everything is finally going to shut down and our severe weather threat is done. So like I said yesterday, guys, for you guys who watched, I do believe this could be extended through the day on Wednesday. This is definitely multiple days. We could more than likely see some strong stuff continuing through the majority of Wednesday until Wednesday night the sun finally goes down, and we'll see a lot of these dynamics move far enough off the coastline to where they're not going to present a credible threat to populated areas. This is 8 p.m., 8 p.m., or I should say this is midnight. I'm sorry. This is midnight as we roll from Wednesday into Thursday. Here's our parent low. This thing is ridiculously occluded at this point. Our cold front is way off the coastline, moving through central Florida. Warm front is off the coastline as well. So as we go through the day on Thursday, it looks like our models are in full agreement that by 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we will be done with our more significant weather threat. We will have to pay close attention to areas in Ohio, Indiana, Kentucky, West Virginia, Tennessee, because there are some indications here on our Rufus model that there is some cold core convection. There is some convection that could occur in the trough axis itself. If you think about it from an upper level perspective, here's our low way back in the cold sector of our outlining upper-level jet stream. This stuff could try to ignite with some leftover instability, but we're not talking severe. This is just going to be your garden variety, sporadic, daytime, early evening thunderstorms. And then we'll switch on over to our NAM 3 kilometer just so we can get one last look at some high-res model data. This is 8 a.m., 9 a.m., 10 a.m., 11, 12. So the NAM 3 kilometer is in full agreement with the HRRR. The 3 kilometer NAM and the HRRR are spot on with their timing. 12 p.m. EST, 11 a.m. CST is when we could likely see that reignition right along the frontal band as this system starts to occlude. Here's your parent low, very weak thickness ridge. Theta E ridge indicating that our occluded front is beginning to form. The low is pulling back into the colder air to the north. Here's our front, cold front. Here's our warm front right in through there. Areas within this quadrant, the southeast quadrant, is where all your severe activity is going to go. If I take it just a little bit further in time, let's go to 3 p.m. 3 p.m., we have lots of sporadic supercells kicking off. Kentucky, southern half of Indiana, Illinois is going to be in the clear at this point. Tennessee, Mississippi, Alabama getting ready for this threat to hit at 3 p.m. EST. We go to 6 p.m. and all hell is breaking loose for all intents and purposes. This is when things are really going to ramp up. And I'm going to leave the chart at this point in time so we can look at 850 millibars, and that's exactly why. there is your very, very substantial low-level jet, extreme low-level jet, to tell you the truth. I see some wind barbs in here between 50, 60 knots for sure at 850 millibars. This is about 5,000 feet above the surface. If we were to go down to 925, I'm almost positive we would still have a reflection, a pretty substantial reflection of strong winds helping to spin these thunderstorms, create that hail, damaging wind, and that isolated tornado, or I should say scattered tornado risk with each of these individual cells popping off. Your threat is finally going to diminish as we get closer to midnight. As we get closer to midnight, 2 a.m. is when finally Indiana, Ohio, Kentucky is going to be in the clear, and then this becomes an East Coast threat. You can see our low-level jet, wow, really ramping up across the mid-Atlantic and the southeast. This is as we go into Wednesday. This is 9 a.m., 10 a.m., 11 a.m., lunch hour on Wednesday. Very, very, very potent low-level jet extending right out of the Gulf of Mexico. You can see it tapping into source regions of the Southern Gulf, the Caribbean. We have a really, really good low-level jet just screaming across the East Coast, running parallel to the East Coast almost. And because of this, we're going to see a little bit of enhancement right along those Gulf Stream waters as well. So I'm very, very thankful that they've elevated our risk for the Mid-Atlantic and the Central Florida Peninsula as well as the Florida Panhandle for today. So that's about where we're going to stop the briefing. We are about 25 minutes in, and I want to kind of go over and start answering questions for everybody. We've kind of nailed down the timing. I want to talk to some folks now. Let me go ahead and switch the camera around, flip it. I'll put you guys right here in front of my camera so we can start answering questions. So the timing, it looks like today, for certain, we're going to start to see reignition going on around 11 a.m. CST, 12 p.m. EST. So right around your lunch hours when you need to really start paying attention. Make sure your electronic devices are charged. Make sure you have a way to look into reputable weather sources. Don't just cling to anybody, okay? And I'm going to throw myself under the bus. If you don't trust me, don't cling to me, okay? I'm doing my best to try to give you guys what I can in a timely fashion. But if you guys have a more reputable weather source that you like to cling to, absolutely tune into them. As long as you have a way of getting information and staying ahead of this bad business, that's all I really care about. I love you guys for the support on YouTube and TikTok, but at the end of the day, this is just about getting the word out. And I'm very, very grateful that we have almost 700 people watching on TikTok right now. Fantastic. My kids are driving from Alabama to Michigan today. Where do storms start on that trip? So if you're driving from Alabama to Michigan, you might want to postpone, to tell you the truth. What time are they leaving Alabama? Thank you for sharing it. So appreciated. You're very welcome. You're very welcome. Follow the live creator. What about Boston? Boston, Massachusetts, you guys should be okay for the time being. I do think that there is going to be an isolated threat up in that area, but you're going to start getting into that modified polar air a little bit faster, and your snow threat is going to be more credible as this system wraps around. Nashville, Tennessee, you're definitely going to want to watch. Ohio, you're definitely going to want to watch. Anywhere in Kentucky. So just to make it easy for you guys, because I'd love to get into the weeds and forecast for point-based locations. It's what I specialized in during my time in Air Force weather. We did a lot of point-based forecasts for 5 nautical mile range rings. However, I just don't have the time to pump out that many forecasts in a rapid fashion, unfortunately. So I would say if you live in central to southern Indiana, look at your map of the state. Central Indiana through the southern half. Watch closely for your severe weather. Central to northeast and the southern half of Ohio. So central to northeast and the southern half to the border of Ohio. Very, very sensible threat for severe weather. Down through Kentucky, very sensible threat of severe weather. Tennessee, very good threat of severe weather. Tennessee and Kentucky, however, is going to be more linear in fashion as opposed to scattered. So what that means is you're going to have a phasing event of this system. I'll go back to our simulated reflectivity, since that seems to be very, very on par with what our HRRR is calling for. So for folks watching from Kentucky, Tennessee, West Virginia, even Mississippi and Alabama, for my folks tuning in around there, you're going to have initiation anywhere between 11 a.m. CST to 12 p.m. CST. And this goes for my people in YouTube as well. Listen closely to these times, okay? 11 a.m. CST to 12 p.m. CST is going to be our initiation. And what that means is our thunderstorms are going to start to fire. And the scary part about this, without actually, freaking people out, I don't want to freak anybody out, but the reason I want to emphasize the timing is because these storms are going to blow up quick. You're only going to have a couple of radar scans, as they call it, before we're already getting into special weather statement criteria, severe weather criteria, where you're going to have damaging winds, potentially life-threatening, damaging hail with these systems. You're going to very quickly get into that tornado realm as well once that low-level jet can definitely establish itself. So 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. CST, Central Standard Time, for my folks from the Great Lakes all the way through to the Gulf coastline. That is when you really need to just turn your situational awareness on. Keep a close eye on your phone. Keep a close listen or a close ear to the radio. Keep a close ear to a local television network if you have it in the office, if you're at home, if you're at school, which I'm hoping that schools are being very vigilant about this. I had a lot of folks commenting last night on my post from yesterday about schools, and unfortunately, I don't really know how local districts are handling this, but definitely a greater risk than we've seen all year so far. This is our first moderate level risk of 2024, and so I'd imagine if we had school closures down here in the southeast for marginal and slight risks, then I would imagine that there's going to be something about school closures and cancellations, shutting down events up there in the Midwest, through the Appalachians, the Mississippi Valley. From 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. CST, from that point forward, it's game on. And I really don't care where you are. And I don't say that maliciously, but I mean as in from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. and forward, you are under the threshold for severe weather, and you just need to watch closely. That's the big thing. Just need to watch closely. Michigan, Jordan, all good. Michigan is not going to see very much. Too stable up there. You're north of our warm frontal boundary. I'm surprised that they still have school in Ohio, because that freaks me out just a little bit, to tell you the truth. Because I know schools typically let out between anywhere from 2 to 4 p.m., and that's when they're usually either on their buses, they're outside waiting for the bus, or they're walking, biking home, and that's not cool. Definitely don't need you guys outside at that time, because if I fast forward to 3 p.m., 4 p.m., Indiana's really going to be kicking off. Western Kentucky's going to be kicking off. Western Central Tennessee, Northern Mississippi, Northern Alabama. It looks like Ohio will be okay until early evening time. So unfortunately, this is going to slowly transpire into a nocturnal threat because of where the positioning of our low is. I'll go ahead and talk you guys through it on YouTube as well, and I'll flip the camera around and I'll just do this manually for the time being. So if you look up at the top here, this is 6 p.m. EST, so 5 p.m. CST. And our areas in question, if I were to do some very quick synoptic analysis, this is our parent low right here. We have a little bit of an occluded front extending out like so, with our cold boundary back in through like this, and all this shield of precip is going to be out ahead of your warm front. So if you're out ahead of the warm front, you're more or less in the safe zone, if that makes sense. The warm front, as the name implies, is the leading edge of your warm air mass. So anywhere to the north and east of our warm boundary here, you're safe. Notice in Michigan, we are close to our parent low, so it is going to be windy. It's going to be stormy, but you're also going to have cold air rapidly building in on the back side of this. So you're very quickly going to go from rain to potentially mixed precip to snow. Very quick. And if you guys watch anywhere in this sector, notice if I get the camera a little bit closer for my folks on TikTok, from that triple point down through the southern periphery of this storm, notice how we have a lot of these little tiny pieces of red. In fact, I'll switch the region so you guys can see it a little bit closer, even better. There we go. I'll go ahead and real quick expand it on YouTube as well so you guys can get a better look. There we go. And I'll redraw my little synoptic analysis here. So here's our occluded front. Here's our cold front, and then there is our warm front, right about generally in through there. You can see the pressure troughing off the coastline, and that still good southwesterly component driving our warm air up and off the coastline. So this whole area is where we really want to watch closely for tornadoes, severe thunderstorms in terms of damaging winds, easily in excess of probably 65, 70 miles an hour in the large hail. The large hail. If I keep us at this timestamp and I don't change anything and go to 8:50, that's the reason why. So we have excellent conditions. Excellent conditions right underneath this low-level jet right there that's just screaming out of the southeast, or the southwest, pardon me, I'm sorry. Let me see what we got on YouTube. Nazari, what do you think about the Atlanta area? It's overnight for me, and I have family that don't do too well with severe weather. Atlanta is definitely going to have to watch. We'll continue to move forward in time. Jacob Waddell, thanks, buddy, for joining us. It's great to see you in the chat. Kevin Rivera, Mr. USA 1, I apologize I didn't catch you guys earlier. Corbin Butler, Isaac Logan, Zombie Life 17, Corbin, Kentucky will be okay. Where is Corbin, Kentucky specifically? What geographic area of Kentucky? Is it west or east? Because I do think Kentucky, Tennessee is going to have an event just sweeping west to east. Everybody's going to get a little taste of this stuff as it goes through the day. South Carolina, you're going to have to watch late into tonight, early tomorrow morning, and through the day tomorrow. So for our folks in the southeast, if I had to kind of timestamp it, let me get my marker back up. This is where our area is going to be under the gun throughout the day today. I'll switch the coloring and I'll go this way here. This is going to be tomorrow. So we still have 2 more days of severe weather. This is going to be your day 1. This is going to be your day 2. And then finally, as we get into day 3, everything will move off the coast and we will be in the clear. That's going to be the kicker. So again, if you guys can, I would definitely urge you, take a look at some of your local weather stations. Take a look online at Weather Prediction Center. It'll definitely give you an idea of where your big areas or your big weather makers are. And that's the best tip that I can give you guys. If you were out ahead of that cold front, or if you were south of where your warm front is on a chart, you have the possibility of seeing severe weather today. That is most definitely. Mr. USA, very welcome for sure. Let's see. We have a lot of people kicking off in TikTok. We're approaching 1,000 people on TikTok. What is going to happen? Middle Indiana, middle of the afternoon, early evening, Indiana is definitely going to get hit for certain. Southern half of Indiana. But of course, these are just model projections. The path of totality of our low and where our occluded front establishes itself is really going to dictate where our severe weather activity begins to unfold. So, extreme southern Illinois, you have a chance of a stray thunderstorm or two. Indiana, the southern half of the state, most definitely need to pay close attention. Large majority of Ohio really needs to pop out for sure. Really needs to watch closely. Try to avoid going out today. Try to stay home if you can. Just maintain your situational awareness. Stay calm. Please, that is the number one thing that I urge everybody. We have a few viewers on YouTube. We have a lot of people viewing on TikTok. Your biggest tip of the day is just stay calm. That's the thing. Just stay calm, maintain your situational awareness, and basically what that means is keep your phones close, cling to your reliable weather sources, have a plan if you do end up underneath a severe thunderstorm warning or, God forbid, a tornado warning. Think calmly under pressure. Try to stay calm. Remember, you want to go to the centermost part of your house. If you have underground capabilities, definitely exploit those. Keep your family close. If you know people in areas affected by the severe weather today, you want to call them. You want to text them right now. Everybody who's watching on TikTok, if you have other folks you care about, relatives, friends, family alike, if they're in a different state or in their neighboring area, you definitely want to start telling them right now. Get on the phone with them. Just let them know, hey, I'm watching the weather right now, and we have a lot of different reputable meteorological sources mentioning that at this day, on this time, or at this time, on this day, you have a very good threat of this, and you just want to pay attention. That's it. Southwestern Ohio, it's scary. Southwestern Ohio is currently being buffeted by stuff right now, if I'm not mistaken. Let me get my radar Omega up. Yeah, we have a line going through Ohio right now. Wow, we have 2 active tornado warnings in central Kentucky right now, just to the southwest of Lexington, due south of Louisville. We have an active tornado warning. So 2 active tornado warnings. Memphis, Tennessee is beneath a severe thunderstorm warning right now. So there is a lot of stuff. We have flash flooding going on in Pennsylvania. We have a lot of rain going on in Jersey, near Philadelphia, Delaware, Maryland. All right, we just lost one of our tornado warnings. That's good news. The southern tornado warning in Kentucky was discontinued just now. We still have a severe thunderstorm warning active for that. And then just to the immediate southwest, just outside of city limits of Lexington, I would say, headed towards Richmond, Lancaster, Danville, Nicholasville in Kentucky, we have an active tornado warning right now. The tornado in Evansville hit about 5 minutes from my friend's house. Sheesh, that is a close call. Very close call. Very close call. Eastern Kentucky later on today is what you're going to have to watch. You have stuff coming at you right now, so definitely keep a close eye out. That is for certain. We have stuff that's already kind of maintaining itself And continuing on, we have a little bit of a MCV, it almost looks like, forming just to the south of Cincinnati. Either that or it's just the structuring of the radar. Yeah, no, it's just the structuring of the radar. We have some very moderate to heavy rainfall occurring in Cincinnati, Hamilton, south of Richmond, Indiana. Indiana, Illinois, you guys are clear right now. Missouri, you are clear right now. We still have some stuff in the extreme eastern extent of Arkansas getting ready to cross the border into Tennessee. Northern Mississippi is starting to see a little bit of that stuff that's moving through Memphis. It just came out of Mississippi, as a matter of fact, northwest Mississippi. Shauna, where is Adams County? Zach, in Louisville, we have a system that just moved through. It is dissipating, however. It looks like a lot of that energy is back building up to the northeast towards Lexington and Frankfort, Kentucky. Terre Haute is going to be okay today, I think. Actually, no, excuse me, not okay. That's going to be your later in the day activity. You're going to have stuff igniting around lunch and through the mid to early to mid-afternoon time frame. That's going to have stuff going on. Tomorrow does have an opportunity to go enhanced depending on where the system tracks today. I do agree with that level 2 risk. I think the level 2 risk kind of capitalizes our threat very accurately. If anything continues to amp up as we go through the day in the back end of today, that could change, because truthfully, we are very unstable. Weather Florida Man just said it perfectly. We are very unstable. I was outside this morning. I went to go quickly grab breakfast, get coffee going so I could jump on here with you guys, and we are very unstable. We're already in the mid-70s out here in the morning, and the dew points are fairly high as well. I didn't take an observation with my anemometer, but I would argue that we're probably already in 60-some-odd degree dew points easily down here. So the threat is there, and we're not going to see it mix out suddenly as this stuff comes in. In fact, it's only going to continue to get stronger if that low-level jet we just identified at 850 stays in place and works its way over the northern central half of the Florida Peninsula. So Georgia definitely needs to pay attention. Carolinas definitely needs to pay attention. Our day is going to be tomorrow. Early morning tonight, nocturnal threat, and then into the first half of tomorrow is going to be our day down here in Florida. Shoot, I'm even thinking about letting work know that we may lose power, we may do this, we might have to, do this, and X, Y, and Z. So, to be determined, but tomorrow is definitely going to be our day here in the southeast. Xenia, Ohio. If you guys, let me see. Let's see. Where is Xenia, Ohio? Let's see. Can I have Weather Florida Man? If you are still in the chat, can you please look up Xenia, Ohio? I'm going to start pumping out point-based locations for you to kind of research to give me the general geographic area that's in. Like, give me at least what's in that 25 nautical mile area. How about Palm Bay, Florida? Palm Bay, Florida, we're going to have to watch tomorrow. Tomorrow is going to be our day. So for folks in Georgia, the southern half of Alabama, anywhere into the Carolinas, and especially the easternmost extent of regular Virginia, not West Virginia. West Virginia, today is your day. Anywhere up in the Midwest, today is your day. Tomorrow is going to be the eastern coastline and the southeast United States for sure. And I've been talking about that as well. Like I said, I'm very, very thankful that Storm Prediction Center has elevated our risk for Florida, the Carolinas, and the eastern coastline of the U.S. because it's definitely there. There's no reason why we're going to go from a moderate risk to almost nothing as this system transpires off to the east. So very, very good news that they've elevated it as much as they did. And I wouldn't be surprised if they continue to elevate and increase that area. It's just going to be timing. The timing on it is what's going to be more or less affecting that. So here is a broad overview. I'll take my TikTok viewers in as well, just because I'm getting a lot of folks asking point-based questions, and unfortunately my chat on TikTok is updating way too fast for me to see your comments. This is where your warm boundary is. As this low deepens here and moves up towards the north and northeast, this area, this line, this stationary boundary is going to move north with it. So wherever this line is on the map is where your strongest stuff is going to be. Notice how we have nothing going on to the north. We have nothing going on to the backside of it, but we have all of our action occurring within this sector. This is what I like to call your severe weather sector. Your low is spinning through here, churning your air up out of the southwest, and you have all this stuff here continuing to try to surge to the north. So this is your severe weather sector right in through here. And luckily, it's going to be more linear than it is going to be scattered. So as this stuff continues to translate off to the east like so, you can time it, you can watch it. The hardest part is going to be watching for initiation, and I do think between 11 to 12 p.m., we're going to have initiation occurring all through this area. Once this stuff initiates and we can start to track it, that's when our jobs get a little bit easier. But once stuff begins to fire, once it starts to initiate, that's where it's going to be a little more difficult to monitor this. And again, 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. That is going to be your time frame. 11 a.m. to 12 p.m., and that is for both CST, Central Standard Time viewers, and EST. So that is your key takeaway. Key takeaway, you definitely want to watch. Right now, we're in a little bit of a lull. I mean, there is stuff happening out there, and there are things going to continue to happen, but I consider this the lull. This is where we've had a lot of our diurnal, as it's called, cooling take place. We have a lot of moisture still in the low levels, which is good and bad. As the sun begins to come up, we're going to start to see all that convective instability lift. That's kind of why we use the terminology air mass recovery. I hear a lot of people saying that all the time. We're air mass recovery, and it's like, well, what does that mean to the general viewer? So essentially what that means is we had our first swath of rain come through. And if you think about thunderstorms, what they do is they take the heat and that energy from the surface, put it into their atmosphere, and then rain themselves out, and that energy has to come down. What goes up must come down. And the reason we say air mass recovery is all that moisture, all that energy that was up inside your thunderstorm comes back down to the surface in the form of heavy rain, hail, wind, etc. But it's the energy. It's the essence of these storms. And down there in the first couple thousand feet of the atmosphere is where your hot air, your dew points are, your moisture stays. And when we say air mass recovery, what that means is the sun starts shining, we have all that residual moisture in the low levels, and as the sun heats the earth and that daytime heating can occur, all that stuff is going to repeat the process, going to go up, and the problem is we have even more moisture present now because of that rainfall that occurred yesterday. Western Pennsylvania, yes, Jessamine, Western Pennsylvania is definitely going to need to watch. I want to say right around the Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania area, a little bit further to the east, if you were to cut Pennsylvania in half, right from north to south, western half of Pennsylvania needs to watch closely. You're definitely in the threshold for some strong storms, moderate level or greater. So 35, 45 mile an hour winds, if not stronger. You definitely have a very good shot at seeing some pea to nickel-sized hail. More severe stuff is going to handle that or carry that quarter to larger sized hail. And then your tornado risk is going to predominantly be confined from Indiana, Ohio, West Virginia, Kentucky through Tennessee, where you guys saw in that model that I pulled up, those strongest 850 millibar winds. That's where your tornado threat is going to be going on for certain, because as these storms fire up, if you imagine it, if you look at it from the vertical, as those storms fire and they encounter those winds, it's just going to turn them into a spin. It's going to start spinning them, and that's why we always look for low-level jets. I will be, how close are we? Excellent question. I wish that I could be with you guys during the event, but I will be stuck working, unfortunately, doing adult stuff. So I will have to tune back in with you guys later on tonight. We will be live again at 8 p.m. And so, yeah, no, honestly, Weather Florida, man, the reason I don't go into severe weather events is just because my hours, and I feel bad if anyone from work is watching right now, my hours kind of suck. They do. And I was actually just talking to a few people this morning that I would love to maybe go storm chasing tomorrow as our threat here in Florida goes up, but I'm just not going to be able to, unfortunately. I would love to get out there and start doing a lot more storm chasing, a lot more coverage, and that's where you guys come in. As I continue to stream this stuff and get this content out to you guys, the more support, the more momentum we can build, the faster I can get out there and get on the front lines for you guys. That's what I want to do. I want to go out there and help people. I want to help evacuations. I want to help people shelter in place. I want to answer questions physically. I want to get out there on the front lines, in the trenches, as I like to say, and just see this stuff up close and give you the most accurate representation of what's happening. Looks like we have some early development going on in central Louisiana. Central Louisiana, we have a special weather statement that's going off right now for some convective activity that's going on in there, and it looks like the storm might be slowly trying to strengthen as well. Severe thunderstorm is through the Memphis, Tennessee area, continuing to move off to the northeast, and we still have our tornado warning almost right in the heart of central Kentucky, headed towards the Virginia border. If it holds together, it'll be there in about an hour or two. Lots of moisture in Ohio. We have a lot of stuff still going on in Ohio, mainly just rainfall, nothing significant, and that's what's going to help to delay the onset of this stuff. I do want to say that through Tennessee, Indiana, Kentucky, down through the eastern and southeastern half of Arkansas, even into Louisiana and Mississippi, those are going to be your areas that go first, and then it's just going to continue to go on and on and on off to the east, off towards the east. So again, 11 a.m. to 12 p.m., that's going to be your time. 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. And honestly, for my folks still watching on TikTok and my folks on YouTube, the key, if you live in these areas that are under the threat for severe weather, easiest thing you can do is just watch the sun. Watch the sun. If you're still shrouded in clouds, the chances of seeing something ignite fast is going to be a little lower. If you start to see the sun come out, you start to feel that warmth of the day begin to slowly start coming up, that's when you know it's getting close to game time and I need to start taking precautions and just keep my eyes open. Cleveland, Ohio is far to the north. Cleveland is definitely going to be in our slightly lesser chance. I'm really thinking that the east side of Ohio, central and south are really going to be our areas of action, but we are going to see the most widespread coverage in Ohio. Same thing with Indiana. I want to say that if you were to take Indiana and look at the state, if you cut a line to the west and then down towards the southern border, it's going to be central and south, and then the eastern side of Indiana that are going to get it the worst. And again, to recap, for everybody in a shaded region on Storm Prediction Center, you have a risk of garden variety everything. I like to call it the works. You're going to have damaging winds, for sure. Especially as we get heating of the day and we get a little bit of dry air in the mid-levels of these storms, it's going to help to build the mass, the momentum of these updrafts. So when they rain out, there's going to be a lot more mass coming down towards the surface level, and that's what's going to increase your winds. It's called downdraft cape. You hear a lot about regular cape, but there is such thing as decape. And decape is when those winds, that energy that I talked about earlier, comes crashing down to the surface and spreads out like this, almost like a bomb. And that's where your strong winds and your damaging straight line winds, as they call it, come from. The reason they're called straight line is because they blow out from a storm and they just move in a straight line. That's it. There's no definitive method to really track it. There's no way to forecast the angle. It's just straight line away from your thunderstorm collapsing. Huntsville, Alabama, you're going to have your threat later on today. It's going to be a little later, though. It's going to be mid to late afternoon and after sunset, northern Alabama. West Virginia, Ricky, you're going to have to watch as this stuff ignites. West Virginia is going to be a little later in the day as well. Our areas in Indiana, the southern and eastern half of Indiana, Ohio, western Kentucky, western Tennessee, northwest Mississippi, Louisiana, and southeast Arkansas, you guys are up first, and then this stuff is going to swoop to the east. So from timetable 11 to 12 p.m., ignition, southeast Arkansas, northern Louisiana, northern Mississippi, western Tennessee, western Kentucky, and Indiana, and then it's just going to continue to build in. By 2 to 4 p.m. CST, that's when Ohio, central Kentucky, central Tennessee, more of northern Mississippi, and Alabama is going to get roped into the threat. And then from 4 to 6, maybe even 8 p.m. is when things are just going to be going crazy. Everybody is a target. Everybody is going to be under the threshold for some strong stuff. And then finally, slowly after sundown, getting through 8 p.m., 10 p.m., midnight is when things are going to finally calm down for Arkansas, Louisiana, West Tennessee, West Kentucky. It's going to be like this. It's going to go from one side to the other, and it's just going to barrel through. Toledo, Ohio. Let's see. Let's get in there. Let's zoom in a little bit to Toledo, Ohio. Toledo, Ohio, you are, again, in the lesser area, I feel, impacted by this stuff. You still have a pretty good shot, but I'd be more concerned from Mansfield, Canton, Alliance, and then south. Cleveland, lesser threat. Toledo, lesser threat. If I were in Bellefontaine or Bellefountain, however you pronounce that, Columbus, Ohio, Newark, Ohio, Wheeling, Canton, those areas and further south are where you're going to have to watch closely. Just like in Indiana, Fort Wayne, not as much of a threat as, say, Kokomo, Muncie, Greenwood, Columbus, Indiana, Bloomington, Indiana, Louisville, and Richmond. Those areas, the further south you go, remember, looking at our weather map, if you are right around that warm front and south, it's game on. If you're further north, like in Michigan, Iowa, Wisconsin, northern Illinois, northwestern Illinois, your threat is not going to be as high. Not going to be as high. I want to try to do hours of coverage. We shall see. We'll definitely be on the back end of all this stuff. Initiation is going to happen during the middle of the day. I might try to pop live or do something during my lunch break. That's not going to be until 3:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 2:30 p.m., but I may try to go live for just a little while just to give you guys another update. Plump stuff. As a matter of fact, that's an excellent observation, so I do think so. I do think all the cooling that we have going on overnight, our nighttime cooling of the surface, after we lose the sun, that radiation can kind of dissipate, modify out. I forget the actual terminology. My brain is going 1,000 miles away, but it'll just irradiate off the surface of the earth. And then all this cooling we have in the low levels brought on by our moisture is probably distorting that warm frontal movement. So excellent observation. That's probably why it's currently stationary. And as the sun comes up, we'll start to finally see it bump north. All right, guys, we're going to get ready to start cutting the live stream. We have about 5 more minutes. I wanted to do this for about an hour before I continue to dig into other stuff and get ready to do some more briefings later today, post up some stuff, share in the stories and whatnot. What about Coleman, Alabama? So Alabama is going to be tonight and through tomorrow, definitely. What time for Canton, Ohio? Canton is going to be between, I want to say, 3 to 6 p.m. is when your threat zone is going to start going up. It'll be Indiana, Western Kentucky, Tennessee, and then further south where everything begins to go first, and then slowly but surely it'll just continue to translate off to the east. And yes, we do still have that active tornado warning pushing through central Kentucky right now. It looks like that storm is trying to dissipate. It's trying to. There's still a little bit of a hook echo that's moving just to the south of Nicholasville, just to the immediate south of Lexington, headed towards Richmond, Kentucky, where you want to watch. Then we have a break for Louisville, and then further west Kentucky. We have a break. Jacob, you're very, very welcome, my man. Thanks for joining us for sure. Check the tornado warning description. Let's see, what do we got? So this tornadic thunderstorm will remain over mainly rural areas of central Mercer and south central Woodford counties, including the following locations: Shakertown, Mundy's Landing, Talmadge, Bergen, Bushtown, Riverview Estates, Bohan, Braxton, and Cornishville. That is your tornado warning and your immediately affected areas, or your potentially immediately affected areas in Kentucky with that thunderstorm capable of dropping a tornado. It's radar indicated. I don't believe it's been confirmed just yet. So that is some good news. And this severe thunderstorm that's moving through southeast Tennessee right now is losing a lot of its luster. It looks like it's finally weakening. Our reflectivity values are dropping down from that as well, which means we're probably seeing the convective winds, the convective outflow on it as well. That's probably what that indicates. Eladi, you're very, very welcome. Very welcome. Timing for the Ohio Valley. So the Ohio Valley is going to go first today. For folks who may be just tuning in, 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. CST. That's going to be your main time frame to see things begin to kick off. And then from 12 p.m. forward is when your timetable begins, the further east you're going. Let's see, Madison, Indiana. Let me see if I can get eyes on Madison, Indiana. Madison. I can't find it immediately on this map here. So if you're in Madison, Indiana, and it's south of areas like Lafayette, Kokomo, Marion, Huntington, Fort Wayne, if you're south of those areas, that is where your more likely threat is going to be, for sure. Ohio is going to go between 2 to 4, maybe 3 to 5 CST. It's going to be a little later in the day. We got to get this stuff initiated first between 11 a.m. to 12 p.m., and then from 12 p.m. to 2 p.m. is when these things are going to strengthen and really make their presence known before finally advecting off to the east, off towards the east. Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. It might be the sunburn, my weird sunburn from the other day, that's amplifying them as well, the contrast of my redness. It looks terrible. I don't like it. I'm really hoping that it goes away soon. Southeast Arkansas is close to being done. Close. Southeast Arkansas still has to get through this initial beginning, I would say, of what's going on. So in Southeast Arkansas, from the Pine Bluff area down towards Camden, if you draw a southwest line and then move east, Warren, Monticello, McGehee, cross at El Dorado, those areas are likely to see some isolated severe kickoff later on today as everything reignites. Then Mississippi, northern half of Mississippi is going to get it, and then eventually down into the central and southern halves. The southern halves of our Gulf Coast states are going to see it tonight and into tomorrow. So as a matter of fact, I'm going to do you guys a big solid real quick before we end the live stream. Well, whoops, I want this bigger. There we go. Let's do this. Here we go. Like so. And then what's another color? Let's use the blue color. Let's do blue color like so. There we go. Let me get my marker back out. 11 to 12. 2 to 4, and then 4 to 8. There we go. All right, for my TikTok and my YouTube viewers. Let me adjust my camera on YouTube so you guys can see a little bit clearer. So this is going to be our timetable if I had to very, very quickly broad brush it for everybody. These areas here are likely to see stuff, and these are very crudely drawn, guys. Please don't take this with, full 100% confidence. I just drew these in like a kindergartner right now, just trying to give you guys a perspective of a timetable if I had to give it to you. 11 to 12 is when we're going to get ignition. Things are going to start firing. 2 to 4 in this yellow area is when all this stuff that's igniting is going to slowly begin to push off towards the east-northeast. And then 4 to 8 p.m. is when things are really going to get going as this stuff really transpires and moves even further to the east with the stuff going on. So northern Ohio is more or less a little bit more in the safe zone. Cleveland, Toledo, this is going to be kind of your lesser risk area. The threat is still there, but I do think up to the north, and let me see if I can get a different pen. I'll use green and I'll increase the size a little bit. I do believe that these areas in the north are where we're really going to have to watch. That's trash. Let me see. Let me use white. White should stand out. I do believe these areas up to the north are really going to have to watch these areas. That would be where I'm thinking the strongest stuff is going to take hold. So the further north you go towards the Michigan, Indiana, Ohio border, you're kind of in the safe zone. Quote, Chicago might not see too much today. We're going to be on the southern periphery or right underneath where this low could potentially track. Looks like according to the radar, it's drifting off in this kind of a direction right now. So it'll be close, but I don't think we're going to have as much severe expansion up towards Chicago, getting up towards the Great Lakes and Wisconsin. Southwest Indiana, definitely. You're underneath this area. Let me clear that tornado warning so I can give you guys a better look at everything. Get out of the way. There we go. So white area, greatest area of concern, and that's only going to continue to bleed down towards the south. I'm interested to see why it is that they're not thinking any storms in Arkansas, because it's definitely under the gun for some severe weather activity, if I'm not mistaken. Let me go back to Storm Prediction Center and see what we got going on. Yeah, see, so Arkansas for day 2, the southern half and the southeastern half, depending on when these storms ignite, are still in the gun for some thunderstorm activity. Now remember, where I had just drawn, your greatest severe threat is going to be up here with an extension down towards the southeast and the Gulf Coast states. Arkansas, the extreme tip of Missouri, and Illinois are going to see some stuff. It could probably be moderate in nature trying to get going, but our main area of an ignition is going to be through here. This is where we're going to see stuff begin to fire, and it's only going to continue to move off in this sort of a direction as we go through the day today. That's going to be the big deal right there. And then the day tomorrow, as we go through the first half of Wednesday is when our threat day is going to begin for the extreme East Coast and the Southeast. Jacksonville tomorrow is definitely going to have to monitor for some stray strong storms. That is for certain. And we'll keep you guys updated. We'll do another briefing tonight before we get into some tropical discussion. We'll talk severe weather for tomorrow and see what's currently unfolding at that time. It will be going to Rhode Island, but I would not be worried about the severe weather in Rhode Island. You might get some thunderstorms and some garden variety storms and heavy rainfall, but I don't really think that we're going to have severe stuff getting further and further into the northeast. That warm boundary is only going to be able to go so far to the north. Is the slight risk for wind threat tomorrow? I do believe it is for winds. We have that hail risk because of the buoyancy out there, and then naturally I personally want to say that an isolated tornado is very possible because of how much shear we have. Good old El Nino is still out there giving us that subtropical influence, so we have great 500 and 300 millibar winds. Low-level jet does seem to ramp up very well, right up along the eastern seaboard and through the northern and central half of the Florida Peninsula, and that could also help to get these storms spinning, so hail, winds are going to be an issue, and I do think that there is an existent tornado threat. So even if SPC, let's take a look for tomorrow. I truthfully believe that even if Storm Prediction Center does not have... Come on, I want the national view. I don't want whatever. Let's go to Florida then. So yeah, tomorrow they do have a 2% area highlighted for tornadoes, but the wind is definitely going to be the biggest one, that's for certain, especially since this is going to be more quasi-linear or more in a straight line than it is going to be sporadic thunderstorms. But that tornado risk is definitely still there just because we are still under an El Nino pattern from, we'll say, 700 all the way up. So we have that shear component to get these storms rotating for these hailstones to mix through the updraft quite a bit and produce severe criteria. But alrighty, folks, I know I have a lot of people watching, but I got to get back to it. I have less than an hour to get started with work, and I have a bunch of other obligations that I got to unfortunately tend to. I can't stay on the live stream any longer. For my YouTube viewers, if you wouldn't be opposed to it, drop me a subscription, drop me a like, turn your notifications on. We have a lot more stuff coming, not only today, but even tomorrow more than likely. And then we're going to continue to update the TikTok. We're going to continue to update my Instagram. And tonight, again, 8 p.m., we're definitely going to be going live again to cover this and then talk additional information that I want to pass on to you guys as well. Vivetta, yes, most of Indiana is definitely included. Definitely. Can anyone please let me know about Youngstown, Ohio? Peggy, random question. Is it more north or southern Ohio, Youngstown? I'm not familiar with the geography of Ohio. So if it's more north, not as big of a threat. More south, central, east, big threat. You got to watch. Maya, really looking forward to having you join it tonight. Thank you very much. Folks, like I said, it just sucks. It sucks genuinely. I want to stay on this live stream with you guys. I do. But I got other things to tend to, so we'll have to see you again tonight. I might try to do something during my lunch break mid-afternoon to just touch base with everybody, whether it be an update through a story, update through a post, or maybe come in for a 30-minute live stream. I know that's not going to do very many people very good, but it'll still be an update nonetheless, so just be on the lookout. Hopefully it's not going anywhere. Hopefully, we're doing still pretty good. Hell of a question right now, but, it's probably the sunburn that's still dorking it up as well. But, plus this camera angle is not very flattering. That's for certain. What? Why? No, don't end it. Oh, that's why. There we go. Sheesh. TikTok almost automatically ended my live stream because of inactivity. We have almost 400 people watching. But all right. Oh, of course, Vivetta, you're very welcome, and I'm surprised because it doesn't seem that difficult to pronounce, but I do appreciate it. Thank you very much for tuning in. Yeah, how close are we? Georgia is definitely going to be under the threshold for some strong potential stuff. You are in a hatched area in Georgia. So we will definitely keep you updated, guys. Thank you for being so supportive and being a wonderful audience during this morning briefing. I'm glad I got to doing this today. Didn't make it to the gym this morning and didn't get to do a whole lot, but I wanted to get you guys updated first and foremost, and that took priority. So I'm glad that this managed to reach as many people as it did. Much better than a lot of my garden variety live streams, especially since I don't think anybody is really live right now doing a morning update so everybody can get a timetable. So if you have the means of copying this down or just taking a mental picture of it, 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. is going to be the reignition. From 12 p.m. to 3 p.m., these storms are going to be strengthening and moving off to the east. And then from 3 p.m. to sunset, it's game time. That's when things are really going to go downhill. That's when our low-level jet is really going to ramp up. Our moisture content is really going to go up, and we're going to have that heating of the day to really thank for our thunderstorms igniting as hard as they are. All of Kentucky definitely needs to watch. Florida will need to watch tomorrow, Belly. Cincinnati, Ohio to Piketon, Ohio. Cincinnati is definitely going to have to watch anywhere in Ohio, truthfully, guys. I don't want to split hairs and try to draw lines. Anywhere in Ohio needs to pay close attention. Ohio, I see you guys. Ohio. That's the big one. Ohio, southern half of Indiana, most of Kentucky, most of Tennessee, West Virginia, western Pennsylvania. You guys are under the threshold. If you guys are in those areas, just watch. Vicente, I wish I could. If I can somehow get out of work, I will definitely go storm chasing because it looks like our threat down here in Florida is a little higher than a lot of the officials were thinking, and I'm not surprised. I'm glad that they elevated it at the last second because, truthfully, with every other system that's come through, we've had special weather statements and severe thunderstorm warnings that have gone off, especially in the panhandle and northern half of Florida and the rest of the southeast. So I don't know why they were trying to skip over us until this morning. I'm glad that I woke up and I saw that they either did listen or they decided, you know what, this makes a lot of sense to update. Not right now, Malcolm. Nothing right now. Again, timing, 11 to 12 p.m. 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. is going to be the restart, the second wave. And then from then on through the rest of the day, things are going to go downhill. I do believe radars are back up and running. I do believe, if I'm not mistaken. I was just on Radar Omega. Let me switch over to our single view so I can take a look and see. Where is my... Well, I've lost all of my, whatchamacallit, my toolbars. Pause. I do see composite reflectivity coming out of there right now, though, so I do believe radars are back up and running. We've had an extension of our tornado warning into central and northern Kentucky, special weather statements for southern Ohio, northern Kentucky, severe thunderstorms still in action in eastern, or I should say western, extreme western Tennessee, the border of Arkansas. So, yeah. There's your timetable, 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. That's when things are going to get kicking off. Might be a little latent depending on how much cloud cover we need to get out of the way, but once the sun starts shining, it's game time. Everything's going to start rising. That cape is going to become uncapped, and everything's just going to start lifting, and then from there, it's boom, 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 boom. It's going to get started. So, folks... Again, I really, really hope that you guys can understand and respect that I just unfortunately have other things to do. I want to live and die by meteorology. We're almost there, and you guys' continued support is what helps us get closer and closer to that goal to where we can go full-time meteorology, especially once I get certified through AMS and I can finish up my broadcast meteorology degree. I can live and die by meteorology, but folks, we're going to get there eventually. I wanted to give you my best update, my best leg forward to brief you guys this morning and get you ahead of what's going to happen later on today. Today's a big day. Tomorrow's going to be not an even bigger day, but tomorrow's going to be an extension of the big day. We're almost done. We're about 1/3 of the way through. We'll be halfway through once all this stuff can get going and we can start to track it. So we'll see you on later this afternoon. I might try to pop in for a brief live update for 20 minutes or so during my lunch break. And then at 8 p.m. EST, so 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, we're going live again, and we're going to stay live as long as we can, and we're going to talk about a number of things. There's a lot I want to digest with you guys tonight, and I need to make sure I have my notepad and everything ready to go so I can write it all down. If not, I'm going to forget something, that's for certain. But thank you all very much for watching. If you have the means of doing so, drop me a comment on YouTube, drop me a comment on TikTok, leave me a message on TikTok as well. If you want to direct message me, happy to answer any questions you have, and we'll talk again. We'll meet again very soon. But for my folks on TikTok, you've been a wonderful audience. Thank you so much for your support. Thank you very much for all the wonderful questions you've been asking. There is no dumb question or wrong question. Ask. That's what we're here to do. We're here to answer these questions for you guys. All weather sources, all meteorologists, we're here just to help. And if you're ever turned away by somebody for asking questions or asking this and that, or you're ignored, they're doing a bad job. Because the whole reason I'm even on this live stream is to update you guys and take questions almost interview style just to help you guys get ahead of this stuff. Otherwise, what the hell am I even doing as a weatherman? You know, I don't get it. But anyways, TikTok, we'll talk to you guys very soon. I'll have multiple updates on my story, on the feed coming out later today, also on my Instagram. YouTube, we'll see you guys again maybe later this afternoon. If not, for certain, look for that scheduled live stream at 8 p.m. EST, 7 p.m. CST, and we will reconvene once again there to kind of do a debrief of what happened, how our timing looked, and what's currently going on this evening. So thank you all. Be safe. God bless. Please, again, maintain your situational awareness. Cling to your reliable weather sources. Make sure your electronics are charged and ready to rock and roll. Let your family, your friends, your relatives know if they are in the line of sight or the direct impact of these storms. Just let them know what's going on. Start making those phone calls, sending those text messages, group chats, you name it. Utilize everything you can to just spread the word like a virus. And we will, bottom line, we'll get you through it. We're going to be just fine, everybody out there. We're going to be just fine. We're going to ride this out, and that's what it's all about. Mother Nature is going to throw some heavy hands at us, and she's going to try to get us with a nice 1-2, but we're going to slip, and roll, and just keep on pressing. So we got this, guys. You're all a fantastic audience. I love being able to do this. I love talking to you guys, and we'll see you again later. We'll see everybody again later. No one's going to be left behind. We'll see everybody back here to talk later on, or you'll be talking with another reputable weather source. There's a lot of us who have your backs, and we're not going to let you fall to the wayside, that's for certain. We're going to stay ahead of this, and it's going to be a busy month. It's going to be a busy rest of the year. If you saw my update on Instagram and my short on YouTube, it's going to be a busy rest of the year because right after severe weather season, April comes May. May is going to be busy, and what do you know? We got tropics. So this is it. The clock is ticking, that's for certain. Everything's just going to go downhill more or less from this point forward. We're going to be very busy in the weather department. So again, leave me any questions you have in my private messages as a comment on my most recent post. Same thing with my YouTube, guys. If you follow me on other social media, or reach out privately, comment, message me, or drop a comment in this YouTube live stream once I ended it. But TikTok, we'll see you again very soon. This is Weather Center Nazario signing out. And then, folks, on YouTube, I hope I didn't just, oh, yeah, what just happened? Oh, my camera died. Camera died. That's how long we've been streaming. So ignore the camera. I'm going to turn it off. Nobody take a screenshot of that. And camera's dead. But I'm still talking. We're still live. Thank you very much, guys, for watching, and we'll see you again very soon. Until later this afternoon, if not later this evening, this is Weather Center Nazario signing out.